Hi everyone, welcome to another Hatton's Model Railway Skillscast session where I help you transform your layout into a fully working model railway. Today we're going to look at adding some more high detail coal to our locomotives. Especially the steam locomotives out there do need this as a vital resource to run on their duties in real life, and adding that extra level of detailing onto your locomotive can really enhance the look with not a lot of work at all. So I'll be showing you some of the different ways to do it today. I'll show you some of the do's and do nots and some of my top tips too. If you'd like to learn a little bit more, do feel free to put any comments in the live stream and I'll answer as many as I can as we go along. If you're watching this a little later on, still put your comments on the video or get in touch with the customer experience team here at Hatton's, who would be more than happy to help you. But otherwise, let's get started. I'll show you some of the locos I've got here today in close-up. I've got a Hornby J15 and I've got a Hatton's Originals P-Class locomotive to show the difference between putting this coal in a larger tender, as we see here, as compared to a small coal bunker on the P-Class locomotive. I've chosen two 00 scale locos, but these skills can be transferred across models in pretty much any scale too. So if you're an N-gauge or an O-gauge modeler, keep listening because this is exactly the same process for you. So let's head over to our spotlight camera there. You can see already that I've done some preliminary details off the camera. I've separated the locomotive from the tender, so we'll be working on the tender alone. So we can put our front half out of the way. I've already started to remove the coal load, as you can see here. This was just clipped in and I unclipped it from underneath and then just levered the coal load away there. So that does come straight out. Although these are getting really high quality now, they're looking pretty good. They're not quite as good as putting in some of the authentic coal products that you can get out there. And that is what we will be doing today. So some of the important parts are knowing where to put the coal in the tender too. And I'll just put our tender inside our little workstation so we know that it's not going to go anywhere and roll away while we're going to be working on it. So you can see the inside here where the coal would sit, and then that would head down through the coal doors there towards the front of the tender, and then that would be accessible by the locomotive crew, especially the firemen, in the front half of the locomotive, and then this would be put into the locomotive's firebox and used as fuel. So there's some great options you can use here. Richard's already picked up on those. There's quite a few different items that you can use. I'll be showing some of those today. You can, of course, use real crushed coal, which is what our Hatton's loads are made out of. You can use other materials such as the Woodland Scenics or Gauge Master coals out there too. I've got to admit, my personal preference is for our range, as it does have that sheen that real coal has, but some of the other products out there do look really good too. So have a look through what we have available on our website and find one that really suits you. What I will do, though, is I'll give you some top tips before we get started on actually fitting this to our tender. I'll show you some of the coals that we have available. I'll put those in the spotlight for you. So we have 3 different grades across our coal range. This is the fine coal that you can see here. You can just about make out the grains and grades in there. It's not coming up too well on the camera, unfortunately, but head over to our website if you want to see some really up close and personal photos of this. I will be getting some of this fine grade out for you so you can see the different styles. So this is the fine, and you can just tip it into the lid for us to use it too. So if I sway that around a bit, you can see that that really is fine scale coal there. And that's the coal I'll be using in our tender today. I'll just show you as a comparison the coarse coal. So this may be great for you O-gauge modelers or you garden railway modelers who need the bigger pieces. One common misstep, shall we say, is that the bigger the coal, the better in these locomotives. And when you actually look at real life steam locomotives, especially on more modern heritage railways, you'll see that the smaller coal, rather than the big chunks, is what you do find out there more often. So head for the fine if you're a double O gauge or an N gauge modeler. maybe mixing in a bit of the medium coal too, but certainly the coarse coal should be left if you're a no-gauge modeller. That's the coal for you, or anything above that, such as garden railways, gauge 1, etc., etc. So that's the two different styles. We've got medium in the middle there too. I'll just put our coarse coal out of the way there so we know that we're not going to use that. But we have got some of our fine coal remaining. And as you can see, the grains there aren't all the same size too, so we do get a good mix here. And that is something that you do get with the mixed down real coal. It's not all uniform. As in real life, real coal isn't quite uniform when it is cut down to be used in locomotives. So I'll head back over to our spotlight there for you now. And you can see I've just put a little bit more in there, ready for our locomotive. And we'll start getting that in. Now, another great question to ask is, how much should we put in? And again, have a look at a couple of inspiration photos out there. Have a look through the internet and various other items. It really depends what and where you are modelling. If you're modelling the steam era back in the days of the 1930s, 40s and 50s, have a think about what your locomotive would be doing when it's on your layout. If it's towards the end of its journey, it might not have much coal left in the tender or in the bunker too, so you may want to put a really small amount of coal in there. If it's on a depot layout, you may want to really fill it to the top because it has just been serviced and filled with coal, ready to go out for the next day. As long as you don't fill it over the top of the handrails, as then the coal in real life would fall out, fall on the track, possibly damage some of the light side equipment. While they were piled quite high on some of the more long distance duties, they were never piled over the top of the tender. If you're looking more at preservation, you may find that, again, the locomotives have coal put in them, and this can last a number of different days. I've got a photo here of a P-class, which is one of the locos we'll be fitting up, and you can see that there's a good amount of coal in there, ready for the locomotive to perform its duties on the Bluebell Railway. So take some inspiration from real-life photos, try and find some photos of the type of loco that you are putting coal in, and then get stuck in, basically, which is what we are about to do now. I'll just move some of my locomotives out of the way there for you. So I've took my coal load out. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. I'll show you the different methods and you can act on your preference. You can put glue straight into the bottom of the tender. This is great if you're modelling just a small amount of coal going in the bottom of the tender, which is something that I will do with this J15 shortly. You can also use the likes of foam, if you have any spare foam pieces around, or some of the cardboard pieces from our wagon load kits. You can stick PVA onto either of these surfaces, then put your coal on the top. Of course, painting the cardboard so it's black so you don't get any see-through areas there too. And this can help you build up quite a high load in a larger tender, but not taking up as much coal as if you filled it right up with the real coal. You can use the artificial floor made from the foam or the cardboard here to really build it up, and then just put a small layer over the top, creating the illusion that you have put a full load in there. But let's get started with our J15. I think I will put a little bit more in there than we suspected. We'll give ourselves quite a full load in this J15 and make sure it's ready to go on or around its duties. So I'll bring you back over to the spotlight. I've got some PVA glue here. As you've seen on my workbench today, I also have Ballast Magic available, and this is another really great way to be able to put this on. But if you have any PVA to hand, you can use this either watered down or you can use it straight as I am using it here. Then just moving that out of the way for 1 second, we'll measure exactly where we want our foam to go to fill the tender gap, as we can see here. So getting our straight edge steel ruler, we'll just do a couple of quick measurements there to make sure we know exactly how much we're going to need to fill to be able to create a level base for the coal. So I've got that there now. I will just get my knife and do some very quick cuts through this foam. This foam's from an old loco packet that I had, but you may have foam lying around if you're getting any parcels, especially at this time of the year, it's a great time to find some foam pieces lying around, and it's really easy to cut just with a small knife, as we see there. You can use cardboard too, of course, to build up a little bit of a layer. I think I just need to take a little bit more off the edge of that, which I will do now. So we're building up a false layer here for our coal to sit on. And again, you've got a couple of great options here. I'll take the tender out actually so you can see it a little bit more up close. You can either put your foam straight in there ready for the load to sit on, and that would be cut down then. So I'll just chop that in half. Or you can put your coal on it first, and then you can add on to that. It really depends on the coal, how you're putting it in, and the locomotive you are modelling. So I'm going to stick that piece of foam in there. Just get a little bit of PVA on the bottom of that. This is very similar. So those of you who've watched our wagon load kits, a very similar process to what we've done there. So just put in enough PVA on the bottom of that there. We'll stick that in to our J15. And the reason we're doing this is we don't now need to fill this area here with coal too. It just acts as a false bottom for our locomotive to be able to put some coal onto. Speaking of which, let's get started doing that. So I will add some of our PVA to the top. And I'll mix that around. Again, have a look at some real life locomotives. I would cut this foam a little bit better too if I had a little bit more time, so we can fill some of these gaps as we go. But have a look at some real life locomotives out there for how the coal is featured in the tender. You will find that more coal is towards the front as the back as to how it falls through the tender there too. So I'm just building that up. Just making sure it goes a little bit on the side so it's quite uneven too. I'll clean this up. Again, I am doing a bit of a rush job as I'm live on air to you guys. It may be something that's worth taking a little bit more precision on. I fairly would recommend that. And then we grab our coal, sprinkle that on. Just making sure we get a good mix of grains and different sizes on there. If you wished, you can use something like a small teaspoon or something to build up a more precise layer. But if we're just getting it on there straight away, such as this, this is a good way to build it up. Don't worry about having a few specks here and there on the sides either. You'll find that a lot of locomotives do have some small remnants of the coal coming through there. So again, just building up that layer. And again, we'd put a little bit around the edges there too, just so it's not an uneven finish, as you can see. Then for the last piece, just a tiniest little drop of glue in the front of the doors there, as you can see. Just use my pipette to do that actually, to get a little bit of glue here. And then that would represent the coal that has come through the tender and just fallen down there onto the side of what's known as the fall plate. So again, we'll just put a little bit of coal on there as per so. What we'd do then, if we had a little bit more time, we'd use the ballast magic or something besides that to add some more of the detail on there too. We could add some weathering powders to enhance the details that we've got. Or indeed, we could add further coal, less coal. We could take away some of the items that we have there. But you can see already that is starting to build up on our locomotive. We've got a full set there now of coal, and that locomotive is ready to go. So just showing the back of the P-class that I've got here. I'll bring that into the camera for you. And I've already taken the bunker off this locomotive, taken the cosmetic coal load. So again, I would put the glue just along the back there, matching the locomotive that you can see in this image. The coal doesn't extend all the way along the back of the bunker, as you can see, but it will extend all the way along the top. So a thin layer of PVA along there, which I'll do for you now. Bear with me 1 second. And again, you can do this either with a pipette like this, or you can use a very small brush if you have one available. I'll just get a little bit more glue. Getting a little short of glue there, but I'll just get some more. And again, I would recommend taking a little more precision on this with me doing it live on air for you. Have to do it to a time scale, but just making sure you've got a really nice quality job and you've not got glue there going where you shouldn't. As that bubble has just come out to prove me wrong. Just making sure we fill up everywhere we want to be covered in coal. We'll just make sure we pop that little bubble there either. We don't want that one staying around. And then again, it's time to get a little messy and we'll sprinkle our coal onto this locomotive. We'll take the body away from the chassis so we know we're not going to do any damage to that. And then just tilting it so it falls back against where we want. We'll get the coal between our fingers and just sprinkle that on top of the coal bunker area. And again, you can build that up as much or as little as you want, but do remember with a lot of these locomotives, less is more. So that there to me is looking like just the right amount of coal for our P-class locomotive. And of course, once we're off air, the PVA will dry clear there too. So we'll leave those to dry. And of course, I've got a slightly messy workbench now too. So make sure you are working somewhere that you don't mind getting a couple of little specks of this coal over. One of my top tips, what you can do is put down a piece of paper or some old newspaper, and then when you are finished, you can scoop the newspaper up and pour the coal back into the container so you're not wasting any of your coal there too. But these are just two methods of doing this. As we mentioned previously, you can use the cardboard style cutouts to build up the interior of your tender before putting that on. We used some of the foam before, but you don't need to do those. You can just put a small layer in the bottom of the tender. The essentials to make sure of are that the coal is towards the front rather than the rear of the tender. Imagine how the coal would actually go down in the tender before putting your coal in and then add it onto your locomotive. I've put some coal there just again to show you on the front of this locomotive. Just coming through the coal doors on the tender that you can see here. I'll bring that a little closer for you now. Just to represent coal that's come through there, been pulled through by the locomotive crew, and that has fallen down onto the fall plate, ready to be used by the footplate crew on this particular locomotive. So over time, you'd build that up, maybe put another layer on top just to confirm that. If you wanted to put some ballast magic on or something around those sides, just to make sure you've secured it in the top too, I would recommend that. But with putting coal on like this, you will find that putting down a PVA layer, as we've done here, does provide a really secure way of keeping that coal on there without having any of the runny glue effects that you can see sometimes on some models. So I hope that's shown you a little bit of something there. I hope giving you some top tips on how to get coal into your locomotives and putting them on. And I don't know what you guys think, but I think they look all the better for having the real coal in there. As good as some of the molded tenders, I think I've got one just here. As good as these tender moldings are looking, it's great to be able to individualize your locomotives. And of course, as Adrian's mentioned there too, bringing coal through, as we did on our J15, putting it in the coal hole on the front of the tender and making sure we get a good build up on the bunker of the rear of our P-Class 2. So have a look at some real life inspiration. As we've mentioned, there's hundreds and thousands of photos out there of all your favorite locomotives with different levels of coal dependent on what the duties they have to perform are. So before you get started, my golden rule, obviously making sure you've got all the equipment available. Have a look at your loco's instructions on how to remove the coal load that's possibly already in there. Some locos now come not fitted with a coal load, with an idea that most people will be putting in an authentic coal load such as this. And also just have a think about what duties your locomotive is performing. Would it have a full load of coal in the tender? Would it have a little bit left just to make sure it can get back to a depot nearby your layout? That's something to really think about, and just having that level of authenticity is something that will transform your locos and really give them a sense of purpose and duty on your layout too. As ever, every single thing I've shown here today, the locos, the coal, the tools, the lot, is available right now from hattons.co.uk. So follow that link in the description if you'd like a look through the different coal ranges that we do. We also do the wagon kits, which can be adapted for use in the locomotives, as we have done today. And we've got all the tools, including the pipettes, the glues, the ballast magic, and all the items you could need to put those coal loads into your locos too. So I hope you've enjoyed today's Skillscast session. If you've got any top tips, or if you'd like to learn some more, please do leave a comment on the video and we'll get people talking about what their favourite method of putting coal loads into locos is. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page for more great videos like this, including model railway skills sessions such as what we've seen today, real railway profiles, and of course all the latest model railway news too. Otherwise, thanks again for watching and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.